Today I'm starting my native flower seeds using the winter sowing method. Winter sowing is a way to start your seeds outdoors in mini greenhouses, while the cold weather helps them break dormancy and get prepared for the spring. The best part is that you don't need any special equipment, you can just use upcycled materials, and you don't need any space indoors also. You just plant your seeds, let nature do its thing, and watch them grow when the time is right. Many seeds can be started with this winter sowing method, but the ones that will do the best are perennials and cold tolerant things. Like think of your cold hardy vegetables and your cool flowers. Things that need some cold stratification are also great to start with this too. That's what I'm trying to mimic today with these kinds of seeds that I'm starting. All of the native seeds that I'm starting over here, most of them need at least a 60-day cold moist stratification period in order to germinate. This just helps mimicking the natural patterns in nature, but in a more controlled environment. So if you think about it, these perennials and lots of the native plants will go to flower during the summer, set some seed, and the seeds will fall and sit in the ground there, dormant, for the whole winter until it's time for them to spring back again in the spring. So doing that in these little mini greenhouses that we're going to make will provide a little bit extra warmth. So that's one of the benefits of this winter sowing method also. And they might germinate a bit sooner than they would if you had just sown them right outside. Also, they're protected from critters if they're here, so it's a more contained environment, and it's easier for you to then decide where you want to put them once they're ready to be transplanted. Also, because they are growing outside, you don't need to acclimate them after they sprout and get to a big, nice little transplant size. You can just open the lid and then you could already put them out. Last year, I sold some milkweed in there and they did great. The year before that, I had tried to start them indoors in my grow light setup and I had horrible germination. But with this method, things worked out much better. That's what gave me motivation to try to do a much bigger project this year. So I'll be planting a variety of native seeds in all of the jugs that I have collected here. So now let's go over real quick the seeds that I am starting today. I am going to also start some milkweed. Those are a bit older seed packs. I have the butterfly weed, and this one's a swamp milkweed, is the one that's pink. So I am planning to hopefully plant this by our pond and see how it does in there. I don't have lots of seeds for these because they are left over from the previous year, so I'll see how many I have in there, and that's how much we're going to start. I'm also going to start some New England aster. I love the color on this one. And I also have some smooth phlox, which I had to keep refrigerated for the whole time since I have received this in the mail. I'm also going to do a couple shrubs and see how that's gonna work. So I have got the American cranberry bush, and this one's a bit tricky. It needs a double cold stratification. Then I have some elderberry. This is a native variety also, and elderberry is medicinal, so I'm very excited to see if I can get this to grow. And then the other ones are still some flowers. I have some echinacea, obviously. I fell in love with echinacea last year and I want to put it all over the place in the garden this year too. So I'm going to try to sow as many seeds as I can from the seed pack. I also have some tall ironweed, some mist flower that I was just reading before I started this video, because I was reading a little bit more about all of them, that can be a bit aggressive and it spreads readily. So I am thinking now that I might only plant a little bit of it. I didn't really realize that once I bought it. I thought it was going to be like the ageratum, like more like a cut flower. So we'll see. I will plant just a few seeds, see how they do. In the first year, I'll probably use a small, skinnier milk jug for that one, like this. And then, depending on how it does in the garden next year, I'll see if I'll plant more of these seeds or not. But I'll try to be a bit careful with this one. I also have here some river oats, which is a grass, and the oats that it produces is also edible. And this is also a bit aggressive, but it's native and it's very good at preventing erosion. And we have a riverbank back here that is kind of collapsing on the side, so I want to plant some of this behind our property by the stream where it needs some support, some structure in the soil there. So we'll see how that's gonna go. And then this here, it's an interesting one because it requires two different treatments. Not only the cold stratification, it also needs a hot water treatment, which we're also gonna do today. This one is the New Jersey tea, and I'm planting these for the pollinators. I have never actually seen this plant or have any experience with it, but I'm very curious to see how it does, and I have lots of space here that we can try to tuck it in to make it pretty with these nice white flowers. And then I also have this rattlesnake master, which is Eryngium. And I've seen the blue variety of this one grown by a friend, but I could only find the white one in this website, and this one is supposed to be very good for the pollinators, and it's also a host plant for the black swallowtail, so that would be cool to attract some of them here in the garden. They usually come to all my carrot family plants, the dill and the fennel and all of that, but it would be nice to have them coming for this one too, because I hopefully can plant in mass. And that's it. So this is the selection for today, and other than that, we are going to need plastic containers, some duct tape, and a knife or scissor or something to cut, and also something to label it. So I'm going to do a double labeling situation here, because I have learned through the years that I'm gardening that a lot of the labels tend to wash off with time. So I'm going to use this garden marker, which is a bit more resistant than just a Sharpie, which washes off almost immediately when you put it out. And I'm also going to use these plant labels inside. So I'll label the container, and I'm also going to put a little tag inside the container to have extra assurance, because I don't really know how a lot of the seedlings look like. From all of these in here, I have only grown before the milkweed and the echinacea. Everything else, I don't really know how to tell them apart if I don't have them labeled. So I'm making sure that I'm doing a backup situation here in case the writing in the containers do wash off. So I have already prepared some containers outside. Originally I wanted to film this video out there, but it was way too cold, so I decided to come back in. I left one on here that we can do it together, but you can see here how they will look after I cut them. So we have to do some holes in the bottom. For this I used the little pokey thermometer that I had, but for this other guy here I'm just going to use a knife because I already have it in here. And then carefully you just poke some holes in the back. Probably better if you don't do it towards yourself. It's too hard. Just be careful so you don't hurt yourself, but you can set into something if it's easy for you. But anyway, got some holes in here. Then I'm gonna get this knife. I did it with the scissor earlier too, but I'm gonna try to do it with the knife this time. And it's important that you don't cut out the way, because you have to leave a hinge in the back here so you can open and close the container. I'm not really particular about where I should do this. I'm just doing right below this line over here. So I'm going to cut it. It's gonna be a little noisy, so I'm just gonna stop talking while I do this. And then at the end, don't go all the way. Just be careful so you don't cut all the way to. I almost did that with one of mine. And that's it. We have our container prepared. The next step after this is to add our soil. And instead of adding one at a time, putting the containers one at a time, I'm just going to do assembly line situation in here. I have set up a table for me there in the back where I'm going to lay all of my containers. And then I'm going to put all of the soil in at once. Then I'm going to sow the seeds just after that. And for the soil here, I'm going to use pre-moistened potting soil that I have already pre-moistened and put in this tub here, so it made it easy for me to get water in and mix everything out. And I'm using just regular potting soil today, not a seed starting mix. If you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I am not a fan of the seeding starting mix. I always use potting soil. I just find it easier, and there's already some extra nutrients in there, so I don't have to fertilize them and keep feeding. So I'm gonna fill it up with this. I have some extra in this bag over here, and after I get them all filled up, we're gonna move on to the next step. Now it's time to get all of our labels ready. I will write everything in here first before opening the packs and sowing the seeds. And one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that you should wash your containers before you open them. I usually wash them right away as soon as I empty it with whatever was inside. But just as a side note, you make sure that everything's nice and well washed before you start adding the soil to it. And then I'm just going to place out the tags, make sure I have enough containers for everything. And before you start placing your seeds in the soil, it's important that you read the directions on the back of the seed pack that tells you the way you should sow the seeds. For example, if it needs to be surface sown or if it needs darkness to germinate, meaning that you have to cover with some a little bit extra soil. So that will depend on the specific seed that you're sowing. And you can also seed kind of thickly because after you have the chance of separating them once they sprout and become baby seedlings. And I want to sow as many seeds as I can today because I have a lot of space to fill up outside and I want to make sure that we have a nice and full garden in this next growing season. Okay, so I just read the instructions here for the New Jersey tea, and it says that the seeds have to soak in the hot water for 24 hours before starting the cold stratification. So I'm gonna pour all of the seeds in this bowl, and I'm going to pour over the hot water here with you guys in this video, and I am going to sow this tomorrow, but I'm just gonna start the first step here with you guys, and then I'm gonna go ahead and close all of the other containers and show you the rest of this winter sowing method procedure is, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go and do this, finish this one up on my own time. Okay, so here's how they all look before I close. Just going to go around and spray with water, and that will help the seeds to settle. Next, we're just going to close everything and use the duct tape to secure the lid in place and seal the containers. Then I'm just going to use my garden marker to label the top of the container as well. And that's how it looks at the end when everything is done. Now, it's important that you leave the cap off because that's how these mini greenhouses will be watered through the season. So you want to allow moisture to get in and heat to escape when you're doing this. Now that we have all of our mini greenhouses ready, they're all sealed, they don't have the top, it's time to put them in a sunny location outside. So I'm just gonna grab all of mine and show you guys where I'm going to put mine. I'll take these guys over here first, and I'll just put them right here, right next to this wall, so they can be a bit protected from the wind, and hopefully the wall will give them a little bit of extra heat too and help them to germinate even faster in the spring. This was only the first batch of native seeds that I am starting this year. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, most of these here need at least a 60-day cold and moist stratification in order to germinate. I have some other native seeds that need a little bit less time than that. I have some that need 30 days and others that need 10 days. So I'm going to start those a little later because I also didn't have enough containers to start them all today. Here's a closer look. They'll live right here by this wall. And again, they will get watered by the rain and the snow. If you don't have a lot of rain and snow where you are during the winter, then it's recommended that you hand water them every once in a while, not as often, but take a peek over there, and if it looks dry, you definitely should give them a little water because the whole point of this is to give a cold and moist stratification in order for those seeds to wake up in the spring. So that will be it for today. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to see all of the native seeds that I'm growing this year, you can watch this video here, what I'm doing the unboxing seed haul. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Looks like we're having some snowflakes in here already.